Okay, welcome to a new video from the sailing family. This week's gonna be a little bit different. We're gonna talk about boats. It's the Annapolis Boat Show. We really wish we could be there. Right now we are sweating our butts off in Cooktown, Australia. It's super hot, so we have our $20 electric house fan running to help keep us cool. So hopefully that noise doesn't interrupt, but I've put together a little bit of a presentation on the top performance catamarans. And I wanted to kind of take you guys through that. Elizabeth's never seen it, and so I thought it'd be fun to have her along, and she can comment on the pictures and give her sort of fresh insights on the boats. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Okay, so we did a video like this 3 years ago where we talked about kind of the best performance cats and why did we buy Nutrimar 51, and that's the boat that we're in here now. But it feels like there should be an update. There's been a lot of development in this category. The performance cat category seems like it's exploding. A lot of people are out enjoying these boats and talking about them, and I think people are finally learning that there's a lot of different choices in the market. You can kind of go the charter cat side with Lagoon and Fanta Peugeot and Leopard and Bali and all those types of catamarans, and there's a purpose for those cats and they're great boats. Or you can go shift toward what we describe as kind of the performance cruising catamaran category. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because that's the boat that we would buy if we were buying another boat again now, right?
Right.
We like our boat. We like the speed, the safety, the blue water capability of the boat. We like sailing, to be honest. We like sailing in light air. There's lots of advantages about the performance cat category. We've done videos and we've talked about that before, so I'm not going to go in depth onto why now, but let's dig into the top 10 cruising cats as of today. So if we were going to look now to buy a new boat, what would we buy? And I think we'll surprise you. I'll give you a tip. It probably wouldn't be a Nutrimar 51. So let's dig in. Ready? Okay. All right, so we're going to dig in here. The first thing that I've pulled up here is a price graph, and these are all the boats that we kind of started looking at. So we, as I mentioned, Fanta Peugeot, Leopard, here we have the Orc and then Lagoon, all the way up to a gunboat. This is a huge price spectrum from kind of under $1 million up to $5 million. We're actually going to get rid of some of these boats, and I'll kind of explain why. So the ones highlighted here, we're going to pull out of this top 10 list, and the reason for that is really one of the key decisions that you should be looking at when you buy a boat, which is kind of the mainsail area, mainsail and Genoa area to displacement. So when you're looking at performance cats, you want to buy a boat that's going to perform, and so you can't have a super heavy boat and then just put a ton of sails on it to make it, you know, faster. It's not going to be structurally sound or safe or blue water capable. So you need to find a boat that has the right balance of those two. And so this is a sort of decision tree thing that a lot of people neglect to look at when they're buying a new boat, and they really should be trying to pay a little bit more attention to how heavy is the boat that I'm buying, especially performance cat, because weight is so important. And then how much sail area does the boat have to propel it through that water, to propel that displacement through the water. And so this is a really important metric to be looking at. And then if we look at this metric, immediately on that big list of boats, you can kind of see why we got rid of some of those boats. So the boats here skewing on the right side, above sort of 17 tons, Privilege, Fanta Peugeot, Leopard, and Lagoon, you know, these boats we're just going to remove from the consideration set. They're not really performance cats. They don't have dagger boards. They're clearly too heavy. They displace too much water here. And you can see as they go up higher on the graph, they're using more sail area to displace that water. The gunboat we're just going to remove because it's outrageously expensive, and it can have a heavier displacement because look how much sail area it has. So if we remove those boats, what we were left with are this sort of top 10 list. So we kind of start at about $1 million and we go all the way up to Kinetic, which, you know, jumps a little bit outside of this group, and they probably shouldn't be in this category, but we'll keep them in anyway just because they're kind of a cool, fun new boat, and you know, some people might be able to afford that boat, not us. So that's kind of our top 10 list, and these are the boats we're going to go through, and we'll go through it in order of price.
Okay.
Ready?
Good thing I'm here to clear up any questions people have.
Okay, so this would be those top 10 boats graphed based on their displacement to their mainsail and Genoa sail area. And so you can kind of see, especially this clump in the middle, from the ITAeta to the HH OC50, you know, these boats are really the ones that fit in this mold. We've got some outliers with the Orc.
Can I interrupt and ask a question? I don't know if other people might have this question.
Sure.
Can you explain light displacement?
Sure.
What does that mean?
So boats, actually that's a very good question, because companies will usually sometimes share their light displacement, meaning once it comes out of the factory, how much does it weigh without fuel, without water in its tanks? What does the boat itself weigh?
So that's the lightest it can be, is that
the
what
lightest
you
it can
mean?
be.
Okay.
And then they need to be able to obviously hold the weight of everything else. That would be their heavy displacement. Some builders, though, allow you and design a boat to be able to hold 5 tons worth of stuff. I think HH50 does that. And it's structurally sound enough to do that, to sail with that much weight. And so their heavy displacement isn't really a good measure of how heavy the boat is. So we're using light displacement.
So it's coming off the factory line with what you have, and apples to apples with all the different. Okay.
And that's a very good point too, though. It's not apples to apples. This is another thing people need to look at when they're buying boats is what is the true weight? Because the light displacement that a lot of these companies are claiming is absolute garbage. It's just smoke and mirrors. And I think.
Wow, what do you mean? Like they're weighing it without all the stuff.
They're sort of they're coming down in displacement to try to sort of appeal to people that are looking at this type of a data. So unless, and the real metric you need to look at is when you buy a boat and you talk to these builders, get it in the contract that it will be built to the weight that they're telling you the light displacement is. And only certain builders do that. And so we'll talk a little bit about that today. And I'll kind of call out the boats that I don't think are telling the truth when we get to them. But make sure
in our opinion.
Well, this is the reality is we don't know if the data that they're sharing is true, and in some cases it can't be possibly correct or accurate.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
So this is something, again, when you're buying a boat, don't just go look at price and then go look at the galley and then make your decision. You got to look at that. There's a whole bunch of materials and resins, and there's balsa cores and foam cores. There's the way the boat is built is another thing you really need to look at. That's a whole nother video that we could probably do another time. But those are the types of questions you need to be asking builders when you're buying a boat. Okay, so let's dig into these 10. But really, as you can see, we'll be probably focusing more on that middle set. Okay, so the first boat, the cheapest one, is the OC50. This used to be called the TS5. This is built by Marcedon Composites. They are kind of a boat builder out of France that builds racing boats. They build racing trimarans. I think they hold the record for the fastest solo sailor sailing around the world in a trimaran. But they had enough people that were interested in their type of boats, their lightweight cruising racing boats, and so they started building the ORC. So again, this is the cheapest boat, starts at about $1.1 million, and you see it skews way to the left of the spectrum here. So this means it's the lightest boat of the group, and it has almost the highest sail area, aside from the Katana and the Kinetic. So this is a fast boat. Immediately you kind of know this is all about speed and racing. So this boat, the cons on this boat are going to be it's kind of technical to sail. In fact, here you look at the weight savings. This is a perfect picture where that's the helm. There is no steering wheel. There is no protected helm seat.
What do you mean there's no steering wheel?
You only steer with a tiller, and that's the helm is on those chairs where she's steering from in this picture.
Okay.
And so there is no wheel. That saves weight. This is a great place to sit and steer when you're racing. You can see your sail trim, but when you're cruising, you're probably using the autopilot and you're inside. But they're kind of going all in on the racing aspects and less so on comfort. So there is no helm seat to sit in and look at the instruments. That's kind of where you are exposed right out on top of the rail. And then this is another great picture because this picture shows up here, you kind of see these exposed bolts. There's no, it's as bare bones as it can get and as light as it can get. There's no vinyl coverings, there's no lights up there, there's no wiring that's run through it. It's even inside the cockpit, there's no lights up here. You see the same bolts up here that hold all the hardware for the boat. This is as plain as it can be.
How do you see at night?
Well, there's lighting inside, but it's not up on the ceiling like on most cruising boats. So they've gone, this is as lightweight and to get that price point as sort of bare bones as you can get for a cruising cat. This will appeal to the racers, and you probably notice it looks a lot like our boat actually in terms of layout and design. It's designed by exactly the same person that designs Outremer, that designed this boat, and the layout's very similar. I would say though the ceilings are even lower, especially on the edges here, and the boat is, as you can tell, a little even bit more bare bones. It doesn't have flooring on it. It's just a white floor. It's a very simple boat, but a very fast boat. So if we were to race this boat today, this boat would crush us. In fact, this boat wins a lot of the ARC rally races crossing across the Atlantic Ocean. What do you think of this boat?
I think it's nice. I think it's okay. I mean, I do think it's a little too bare bone, and I can't imagine having to steer with a tiller, like to try to dock or to get into an anchorage, and I think being out in the sun like that would be really hard too. The inside looks kind of okay. It's hard to see by the pictures. It doesn't look bad by any stretch.
This boat is not really for you. This boat is for like your hardcore racer.
Right. So yeah.
All right, so that's the OC50. The next boat we have is the CWIN 1600. I sort of called this one the cheaper Outremer. It seems like that's been their strategy. They're lower cost. They're an Australian designed, Australian company, but then they've moved their factory to Vietnam so they can bring down their labor costs, and they can produce a boat that's on the lower end of the spectrum, still expensive, but it's a comfortable cruiser. And so you see here, it has a little bit more weight than the Outremer, if we were to use Outremer as kind of the gold standard. And CWIN has increased their sail area to try to make up for that a little bit. So it's still a performer, but it's not.
Can I ask a question? Yep. I don't know if people are interested in this. I'm just reading a lot right now about production in the fashion industry and making sure it's eco-friendly, and a big part of that eco-friendly is friendly to the humans that work on these boats.
Yep.
Is there any information when these boat companies build their boats, like in Cambodia? Do we know how the workers are treated?
Workers? No, that information isn't shared to date, and maybe it should be. I think the bigger question where I thought you were going was, how are the boats being built, and are they environmentally friendly?
It's a two-part question. So I think when I'm reading about this, because I'm really got interested in it because of the fashion industry, but I think it's a two-part question. What are the materials going in, and are they the most eco-friendly you can do for the boat? But also the human beings. Are they being ethically treated? I think is important.
It's a great question, and we can ask these companies that and maybe report back. But I think the reality is probably the factory conditions. Building boats is messy. You're using oil-based materials to build boats. The factory conditions are probably all the same on these boats. These types of boats, you need to have an air-conditioned factory, and you need to have a climate control. You can't have it too humid, or these materials don't lay up right. But there is a big change between polyester, which is very, very harmful for the environment, going up towards vinyl ester, and then epoxy. Epoxy would be the least harmful, 3 times as strong. So again, asking what the boats are made out of is an important question. This boat, back to the CWIN, built in Vietnam. This boat is unique. This helm is a plus. There's 2 helms, one on each side. It's a 2-person helm, looks very comfortable, and then it's partly covered by the cabin top. So it's aft and outside of the cockpit area, but you can stand outside and be exposed, or you can duck inside and be covered, or you can choose the other wheel. This is the first boat we've seen with 2 helms, where you can pick the side that's in the shade, or it's outside of the rain.
Right.
So it's kind of a smart idea. It does make the cockpit a little bit smaller because the helm is such a big part of that cockpit. So here they are.
Right, where that girl was just sitting did not look comfortable at all.
Yeah.
Although I love the double bench seats. Look really cool.
Yeah, the double bench seats are neat, and it's a good, again, exposed area to see the helm. So this is the cockpit table outside. As you can see, it's a little bit smaller. And then you see there's not a huge doorway. They actually don't. All these pictures, by the way, are from the websites of these boats. There's no wide doorway like you'll see in some of the other boats. There's kind of this sliding window into the galley, and then a very small, narrow doorway. And there's also steps that go down into this boat, and so it's not the same flat living platform that you'll find on a lot of other boats. Okay. So this boat, there's pros and cons to all boats. There's no perfect boat. So here he is passing a drink to her through the window.
That's a giant galley.
There he is passing a drink over the U-shaped galley. Oh, and another drink's passing another. There's a lot of drinking going on in this boat.
Looks like us.
But the galleys, I think it's a nice interior, really nice really bedrooms area. So I think the quality, because they're able to throw probably a little bit more man-hours.
It's interesting they don't have a back window to that bedroom now.
Yeah.
Because you do get a lot of air out of the back window and airflow.
And then this concerns me too. There's no overhang over this window here, so you just get this huge greenhouse effect. A lot of boats that have angled windows like that have an overhang. Right. And here you see the blinds that you have to have probably down all the time in the tropics, which would be kind of a bit of a negative. But that was the CWIN 1600.
What would you say is a negative on that one? Because
well, I think my negatives were, well, it's not going to be as fast because it's a heavier boat.
Okay.
The closed doorways for me, I love to be when we're out in the water, we want to feel like we're out part of the environment, and I feel like the closed doorway really segments the interior cockpit and the salon. So for me, that's not the type of boat. I don't love the way it looks. I think that it's a little bit ugly looking. It's not. You don't look at it and go, "Wow, racer, sleek, fast, cool boat." And I'd say the last negative is you've got to pick it up in Southeast Asia instead of France or other places where you'd really want to be able to just hop on board and cruise. It's a great place to cruise, but then you've got to go somewhere from there. How do you get to the Med? How do you get to the Caribbean? How do you get to the South Pacific? That is a negative for all the boats that are being built in the Southeast Asia area. Okay, so we go to Outremer?
Sure.
All right, Outremer, I called them the market leader. I think they are kind of the benchmark at the moment. They're right in the middle of that price segment, so they kind of sit in the sweet spot there. I think what's made them the market leader is they've found the right balance here between cost and performance, and clearly they're one of the lighter boats, but and they don't even need as much sail area to push them along, so it's a very capable blue water boat. This has become known as kind of it's a good size for a smallish family, younger kids to sail around the world in comfort, and it's very blue water capable. I would say the negatives of this boat are kind of the helms. There's only one helm. I do love the tiller steering, which is kind of fun when you're racing and you can put those tillers in and do it, but there is only one helm. And so actually I struggled to find on their website pictures of the helm. Here's a picture I found online, and then the next picture as well. This is on their website when you do the 360 view. It's a nice two-person bench seat, not quite as comfortable, but it's very exposed. Unless you put a bimini on the top like we have, and then you have to raise the gooseneck, this whole area is very exposed. And then as you talk a lot about, the weather kind of can come in through there.
It can. So we've talked a lot about this because we kind of disagree. I really like the back cockpit being closed with that kind of U-shaped design of the table. It's really nice from a safety perspective. I feel like when we're underway, the kids can go out there and still sit at that table.
Yep. We
eat every meal out there, so it's really nice. The negative is you've got the two, you come in through the sides, and so when it is raining, rain gets in there, and the whole floor
or you
can
have
get wet.
those curtains down all the time.
Yeah.
And not just for rain, but for sun too.
Yeah.
So again, going back to, we were out here to be part of the environment. Like, our curtains are down right now. They're always down. And so that's the disadvantage of this cockpit. So I agree with you. It's very protected and safe. No one's falling off the back of that, which we love. But at the same time, it's maybe not the best cockpit design of this group.
We're in disagreement on that idea, but
well,
it is
there
a
is
thing
no
to
perfect
consider.
boat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you need to decide what's best for you.
Exactly.
Inside, we found this boat's been really comfortable to live on. It doesn't have, is a bit of a smaller salon, so there's not the U-shaped galley that you saw in some of the other boats. But it's a very functional boat. It has lights up in the ceiling with vinyl coverings, which do help insulate some of the heat. You do still need a fan in Cooktown. It's got a forward-facing nav table, lots of room for the instruments. You can sit there and steer the boat. We do that a lot when we're underway. Downstairs, it's a narrow boat. This is one of the more narrow hulls because of the speed capability. But I think for us in a lot of these boats, you'd give up some of that comfort and space to have that speed, because this is what it's about. It's about clocking 200, 220 mile days when you're cruising.
It does make a big difference.
So cons on the Outremer, I'd say the unprotected helm for me. Low ceilings is one of the lower boats where I hit my head all the time. Yep. I'd also say that the curtain's always down is kind of a complaint. One of the biggest ones I learned is that they make their boat out of polyester, which I didn't realize. Some of the competitors in this category are using vinylester. They use a vinylester outer layer, but for the most part it's a polyester build, which is interesting. They don't use a balsa core anymore, which is good. It is foam sandwich, so it's a decent structure. It's still a very strong structure. We don't feel this boat, pivots or shifts, but that was interesting and surprising to me.
Yeah, it's a very comfortable boat under sail.
Yeah, and I would say the weight is not accurate. We know on this boat, that weight that they're saying is 13 tons. Our boat is not 13 tons. There's no way this boat light was 13 tons. We have put a lot of stuff on it. You've put a lot of stuff on it, but I don't know. The weight seems a little bit.
He has way more stuff on this boat than I do. By the way,
I would question that weight.
Okay, interesting.
Let's move on to the next boat, number 4, the Katana 53, the old guard. I called it. Katana kind of was the benchmark in blue water cruising performance cats, and then they came out with a Bali, and it seems like they're using all their resources to build that. This is the only boat they make anymore. They only make the 53. They're coming out with a new, smaller ocean class boat. But right now, the only boat you can buy from Katana is the Katana 53. And so for that reason, it is a bigger boat than the rest in this segment. So it's going to be a little bit more expensive. It's going to be a little bit heavier, and it's going to skew a little bit to the right in terms of that sail area displacement graph. But I feel like this is the old guard. You have to have Katana in any top 10 comparison for blue water cruising performance cats. So this is the Katana 53. It's very boxy. As you can see, they've kind of moved away. It's thicker. The hulls are wider, a little bit more space. This is what Katana is very famous for, is these exposed outer helms. It's why we're not in a Katana right now. We really don't like being exposed out in the sun and out on the rail like that in a blue water condition, but it does open up a lot of room in that cockpit that you just saw. And then in terms of an interior, these windows are cool. These windows hinge open, so that's probably the best ventilation that we've seen.
Yeah,
I think that's really a new trend in catamaran design. That's going to be the future. Here's that cockpit I was talking about. With the helms way out in the back, you really do have a lot of space.
Right. That is nice,
area,
but I think it's too hard on the helmsman to be outside.
I agree. Really wide opening doors, which is nice in this boat, and then you get, it's a very similar layout actually to the HH and OC50s, where you have this really long seating and these two tables that go into another seating area by the nav table and the galley kind of on that starboard side, and the galley's a U-shape, so very identical layout to probably the next boat we're going to be talking about. The cons on this one, I would say, you know, it's a heavy boat. This isn't a fast boat anymore. You're outside of kind of the performance cat category at this point in terms of clocking huge days and having high speeds. This is almost a performance cat meets a privilege or a lagoon in terms of space and comfort. Go pick your nose somewhere else.
We'll cut that out.
I don't know if we will. At least he's using a tissue.
It's not picking your nose if you use a cleaner.
That's true. That's true. And then in terms of this boat, you know, it is expensive. It's on the sort of, it's in the middle actually in terms of price point. Those exposed helms kind of ruin it for me. This boat is made with a vinyl ester infusion with a foam core, so that's a stronger boat. And then there's some carbon and some Twaron in there as well. I'm not familiar with Twaron, or if I'm even pronouncing it correctly, but those are stronger materials than just fiberglass. And so this boat, again, is being made at least to a very strong blue water capable standard.
Right.
It's just a bigger, more comfortable boat. What do you think of this one?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think for people, if the helm exposure to the sun and elements doesn't bother you, and you don't mind being a little bit slower, it might be one you'd want to consider, I guess.
Yeah.
It looks pretty nice.
I remember going on it at the Annapolis Boat Show, and it was beautiful when we went over.
And I love the big open windows. If you're the galley slave like I am, I mean, it gets so hot in here, and all I have is this one window.
Yeah.
So I think a big window like that would be incredible.
You know, the other con though is this is a 53-footer, so we're comparing it to a lot of 49 and 50-foot boats, and there's a huge difference between a 50 and a 55-foot boat. So this is somewhere in that middle bit. So it should feel bigger and have more space.
Right.
Okay, the next boat is a newcomer. This is the last year's boat of the year. This is the HH OC50. And it's hard to talk about these two being separate. They're almost identical. You can get an HH50, which has always been a dream boat of mine, carbon fiber race boat. But now they make an OC50, and they even offer the option of dagger boards or skegs. So you can get an HH50, and I call this boat the quality leader because it is exactly the same boat. The only thing that they're changing is that now with this boat, there's only, it's e-glass instead of carbon fiber, and there's one helm instead of two. So in the price segment, the OC50 is right in the middle here, very competitive with Katana, Nutrimare, and a lot of the other ones. And then here you see the OC is on the right. It weighs a little bit more because it's not carbon fiber. If you want to go carbon fiber, you go to the HH50, but you got to pay $500,000 more for that lightweight, very strong structure. So let's talk about the OC50. This boat has, as I said, you can have dagger boards with it now, which is a new update for them. I think really going to challenge the performance category. As I said, it's got one helm, but that helm is very protected and spacious, huge bench seat, probably the most comfortable helm of this category, even though there is just one of them.
Can I ask maybe a silly question?
Sure.
I mean, it seems really a lot to have two helms to me. I mean, is it just for when you want to be on the other side for docking situations, or why do you need a second helm? It seems like a lot to add to a boat.
So, yes, we have one helm. You don't really need it. I think we always though dock on the starboard side, because if we had another helm we could dock on either side, but I'd say it's more about whether if the rain or the sun are coming from starboard, you want to go on the port side, and then vice versa if it goes the other way around. So you have an option of which side of the helm is going to be more protected for you to sit in, and then probably most importantly is sail trim. You can look at the sails and the telltales and trim the sails from either cockpit and know that the sail trim is right, so you can kind of steer to the telltales when you're racing. It's kind of more of a racing thing. Okay.
Which seems like a lot.
It's a luxury. And these boats you're going to see kind of from here on out are going to skew towards two cockpits instead of one, two helms instead of one. So the OC50, this is a great drawing, is E-glass, but these are all the carbon components inside of it, including, they haven't shown the longeron and the crossbeam are also carbon. And you can get a carbon mast. So this boat is still very strong, but you're saving $500,000 by having it made in E-glass. And I believe that boat is vinyl ester with foam core. It's not polyester. In fact, I'm almost 100% certain. This boat, like we talked about with the Katana, very similar layout. You can, this is almost, this is the picture of the helm. So I stole this from Scott Rocknick's video. He's the broker for them in the US. He does great videos. Check him out if you want more info on this boat. But here he is laying in their cockpit seat. It's a huge 2 or 3 person seat where you could easily sit up there and do watch, you know, in the protection of the helm if you wanted to. But this is the layout. Ooh. Well, this is semi. Now we're getting to price point too.
It's
the color.
The color.
The color is different. Well, this actually is a good point because it's semi-custom. You can get it with any fabric, color you want. There's not just a choice of fabrics. Here you see blue with a dark wood. You can get all light materials. You can get different countertops. Right. You can start to customize these boats with the HH yard to do this. The other big pro here, and the reason I call them the quality leader, is that these boats are built in China, and so it's another boat builder that's not, because they're not in France, they're able to tackle boat building, boat building's tens of thousands of man hours. I think they make these boats in 50,000 man hours. Outremer, I think, is around 30,000. Balance, that we'll get to in a minute, is around 40,000, and I think HH is around 50,000 man hours. And so they're able to throw a lot of man hours at building the boat. So the joinery and the woodworking and the quality, everything. If you flip open a hatch in this boat, we went on Flash with the boys at the Newport Boat Show a couple of years ago. You open a hatch and look inside these boats, the hatches inside are finished, which isn't true on our boat or on a lot of boats. So this boat is all about, building. This is the Hinckley of cruising catamarans. It is the highest quality you could probably get out of any of these yards that we're going to be talking about today. And it's interesting that they're using their lower cost in China to do that, to make a better boat, not the cheapest boat, because they could have gone that route, but they didn't.
Right.
The cons on this boat, I would say, again, the price is still a little bit higher than Outremer or some of the other boats. This boat, the OC50 in particular, is not as fast as the Outremer. It's a little bit heavier. It's got a lot more wood and cabinetry and storage, probably a little bit wider of a hull. The HH50 can get away with that because it's so lightweight, but the OC50 is going to be a little bit heavier, and if you look at that graph, it's not going to perform quite as fast. The single helm is in my opinion, I'd love to have 2 helms. It'd be kind of nice. That's a bit of a disadvantage. And then like the CWIN 1600, this boat is also a Southeast Asia pickup. So again, you're going to have to cruise around the Philippines and Indonesia and Thailand, which are great places to go cruising, but then you got to figure out where you're going to get next, or you have to pay for shipping. But that's the OC50 new boat, boat of the year last year. Kind of cool boat.
Yeah.
What do you think of this one?
I like it. I like it a lot. There's a lot of great things about it. It looks, and I personally love the extra cabinets and things like that. I'm with you on the performance cat, and that's great, but sometimes I do feel like the Outremer is a little bit light on, they have these little tiny shelves, and you're sort of like, oh, I can put a yoga mat there. Like, it'd be nice if it was just a little bit wider, or there were more cabinets so you could kind of hide your junk a little bit. God, that sounds horrible. Hide your stuff a little bit better.
It is junk. We have junk everywhere.
We do, but so there's again, it's just a trade-off.
One last thing I forgot to talk about with them is to go back to quality. This boat comes with real mattresses, not the foam slabs that you get on most boats.
Right, that's amazing.
And all the foam on the outside is 4-inch thick, outdoor seating cushion with marine grade materials, marine grade everything. So it's a higher level. It's the Hinckley of cruising cabins.
And it's probably
maybe the Swan, they're fast.
It's probably the stuff you wouldn't know until you really saw it in person and like sat on the cushions and like felt the, saw the value.
I bet you this boat would bring Swan buyers away from a monohull and into a catamaran. Okay, the next boat. This is a really unique boat. This is a love it or hate it boat. This is the Windelo 50. This is a brand new entrant. I think they've built 1 or 2.
Eco apartment boat.
I'm calling it the eco apartment boat. It is basically an apartment on the water. It's not a houseboat. It's still a performance cat, so I'm calling it the eco apartment boat. They also have done more to market their ecology version of this boat, which is better for the environment. So Windelo, this is one of the boats I'm going to call out. There's no way that giant boat is only, you know, 12.5 tons when the OC50 is saying they're 13. I can't buy it, especially with the way that what the boat materials are being built out of.
Okay.
But let's see, maybe that's what they thought it would be, and the reality final boat is different. But this boat, it is performance cat. It's got center boards that raise and lower, or you can go with skegs. It's got the really long bow area. But a lot of clever and somewhat unique concepts. So here's...
It is so square on top.
It's very square. It's very modern. It is a modern New York City apartment. And it is inside too. And so in a second we'll get in there.
Okay.
So this is kind of a cool concept. So look at this. So if you zoom in on this picture, you can see the transom folds up. So the dinghy would go here, and you pull it up, and when you're underway, you pivot that whole thing down, and you get a giant flat outdoor space. But
no,
notice,
you mean not when you're underway, when you're at anchor.
When you're underway, you'd have it up with the dinghy, and
right.
when you're anchor. Okay, sorry,
you said the
what you mean. So this is at anchor with it down. You have this huge platform.
That's
and so
awesome.
to launch a kite to go kite surfing from this would be amazing. But the trade-off is there's no outdoor seating at all. Like all the seating is indoors only.
Okay, that's.
But it opens up big time. These windows slide open, the front doors open, the back doors open. Actually, the back doors, I think, lift up. This is the cockpit. This is in the front of the boat, which is nice in that it's a forward cockpit where all the lines and line handling, everything is
inside?
Is out. It's in the front of the boat, so all the lines are away from the living areas. But yeah, you have to open these, I think they're like vinyl windows that you open, and these windows at the top slide open. And so sort of where we are is the front cockpit, and then you walk through these sliding doors to go to the stern of the boat. So this is aft, and the stern is back there. So super different design.
Yeah.
This living area inside is the apartment bit. It's very modern, but this is it. You've got your kind of one table area. There is no nav table. There's no forward-facing nav table. This is your table, and that's your galley, and that's your entire living space. There's not a whole lot of storage that I see. There's a bit there. I don't know where a pantry is, where you would put kids' school supplies and all that stuff. So I'm a little worried about space. But you know, it's a super modern. It's almost like a charter cat meets a performance cat in terms of their design, and incredible airflow.
Yeah.
What do you think of this?
Well, I like the airflow. It's a little. It looks a little sparse to me, like you're calling it modern, which is great, but it doesn't look sort of comfy or inviting to me. And not to have an outdoor table. I mean, that's where we eat 99% of our meals.
This is a pretty slick cabin, though. Look at the
window. No, I think it definitely has some cool parts about it, but I don't.
It is sparse. If you look at there's no closing, not a lot of closing cabinets.
This is one of my least favorite out of all these things we looked at.
It is. What's also unique about this, it's 100% electric. So the engines are electric only. There are no diesel engines in this boat.
That's
this goes to their eco thing, but you have to have a generator, because I'm not, and Jimmy Cornell is not convinced that an all-electric boat will work. And so you need to have a generator to charge your batteries. And then I do worry a little bit about the range on electric engines, so you're going to have a ton of solar. Those davits that they have, as cool as it is, you can't put solar on the davits because it drops down when the dinghy's in there.
Right.
So you're reliant only on the solar on the rooftop, which the boom can get in the way in terms of shading. The boat also has their own software that manages all the power systems, and so I'd be a little bit worried, like, is it a software company or is it a boat? And you know, will that software work, and can they pull it off? And then lastly,
Is this new? This is totally
brand new. It's coming out now. It'll get tested, and we'll see how it goes. They are touting their eco-friendly. You can buy an eco version where 56% of the foam in the boat is a recyclable foam. I forget the name of the foam. So the foam, though, is being built from recycled materials. It's still a boat. You can't recycle the boat. Like, when the boat's done, you can't pull that foam out and recycle it again. So it's still a boat. It's still a messy build, but at least they're doing something to try to be more eco-friendly.
It's not adding more foam to the world.
Right.
It's taking.
Well, a little 56% of it. Now the question is how strong is that foam, and how much resin and what the materials they're using. You know, it's nice to have that idea, but that doesn't mean you're just an eco-friendly boat. You know, frankly, if you build a carbon fiber boat, you're probably using less resin than you are in a boat like this. So I applaud their efforts on eco-friendliness, but a really polarizing boat is how I would describe it. All right, we'll move on to the next boat. Next boat is a Balance 526. This is another new industry leader. This skews a little bit higher on the price range at 1.6 million. So now we're getting right up to the right-hand side. This is another semi-custom boat. Phil Berman, I spoke to him once about these boats. He's very proud of the Versailles design. and the balance that these boats find in terms of comfort and performance. But all
Hence
of these
the name.
boats, well, hence the name. But let's be honest, all these boats do that. Every single one of these boats' websites, by the way, talks about the balance between the perfect balance of
Right.
the minute user balance, perfect your performance cruiser.
Right.
So they're all trying to compete for this concept. But let's talk about what makes this boat, in his mind, a better balance. And so you can see right away there's no bimini up top. He has a really cool Versa helm, which is probably one of the more unique factors on this boat. Kind of the whole boat is almost built around this Versa helm concept.
Okay. And one helm with a Versa helm.
Yes, it is one helm. It's not a dual helm. So we'll get to
Ooh, that's
pictures of it
pretty.
in a second.
Where was that?
So this boat is built in South Africa, we should mention.
Okay.
So to attack the man hours problem, building a boat in France is going to be more expensive with labor. You could go to Southeast Asia. They chose to go to South Africa. So you have kind of the same issue of, there's no cruising ground really near South Africa. You'd have to sail to Brazil and into the Caribbean. But, what a cool place to go and pick up your boat. And we love South Africa and neat to see the boats building out of there. All right, so South Africa. So let's talk about the Versa helm. This is the cockpit. You can see some of the helm takes up the cockpit space, but it's a very nice protected helm area, but small door. Look at there's only one tiny door, and that's the disadvantage of his Versa helm. So the helm, this is the helm in the down position. It takes up a bit of that space, and so you're really protected. You're right in the middle of the boat almost with that helm. And what Phil talks about a lot is the helm is right up on the sort of on the bulkhead.
Right.
So this window flips open, so you have great visibility from the helm forward through the salon windows, or you can flip the helm up. So you'll see it in a second with it up, and you can sit up in this bench and steer and slide this door open, and then you can steer from up top and see the sails and be exposed. So it's kind of a really cool concept. Really cool concept. I love the Versa helm. I think the negative on the way they've done it is that you'll have that narrow doorway.
Yeah.
Inside, you've got a U-shaped galley in this boat. It is, again, a little bit of a bigger boat, 52.5 feet. So it's closer to that 53-foot Katana. So you should have a little bit more space inside. Modular, again, you can get it with light wood, dark woods. This is a very white boat with dark woods. Or you can get light woods, like an oak or a more gray countertop. So you can kind of start to customize the boat with balance. But it's very similar in terms of size, I think, salon size wise to our boat.
What I don't understand where the galley is. Did I miss it?
Yeah, so the galley is U-shaped on the port side.
Okay, so it's up though. It's not. Okay.
I'll go back real quick. Yeah, so there's the galley. You go into that one door.
There's a huge galley. Okay.
And on the left is a U-shaped galley, and then on the right is your fridge and freezer, and then your seating area.
Got it.
The seating area is elevated, which is kind of nice. You can sit there and see out the windows.
Right.
But ours, we can do that without it being elevated.
And I'm assuming those go down and you can make a big day bed thing, right?
You probably could. I've never seen one with that option.
Well,
they
you can
lower.
see the lower thing.
I think, but that's more to make it like a coffee table than a sofa. But I assume you could do that.
Okay.
Again, it's semi-custom. All right. So
It
then
looks
here's your cabins. These go a little bit over the front of the boat. So there's a little bit more weight on this boat. If we looked back at that graph.
Well, it's a bigger boat too, so it's hard to.
It's a little bit bigger, a little bit more weight, but it doesn't have as long a bow area as some of these performance cruisers. But it does have dagger boards. Actually, you can get dagger boards or skids.
That's cool, and then you can take that down. The boys would like that room.
It is cool. Actually, I do like that, especially for a V-berth. I think that's a smart concept. But here you see the beds are going over the bridge deck, over the front of the boat. So, and then it has. I think this boat is the biggest shower in the category. If that's important to you. So I think the balance boats are pretty cool.
Yeah,
I would say the
nice.
cons are the single Versa helm. You still have to have a higher gooseneck because you can't be hit in the head by the boom when you're up there. The price is on the higher spectrum. The Versa helm does use, it's as cool as I think it is, it does use some of the cockpit space and the single door. I really love the wide open doors. You get to pick up your boat in South Africa, or ship it from there. And I think that's it about the cons. I mean, it's a very cool boat. There's the shower.
Oh wow, look at that. That's a nice bathroom. That is a nice bathroom.
Okay. I think we're on to our last boat, our 10th boat. We have a few more boats to go.
Oh my God. Maybe we should narrow it down a little.
Number 8 is the McConaughey MC52. Okay, so this is another brand new boat built in Hong Kong from super yacht builder McConaughey. So they're kind of a new entrance to this size catamaran. They're used to building humongous boats and very high quality boats. This boat, I think, is like the Windelo. It's going to be very polarizing. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And it's very heavy, so it's one of the heaviest boats in this category, and doesn't have a lot more sail area to propel it. So I assume it's going to be one of the poorer performers in terms of speed. But you're giving that up to have a really kind of crazy livable boat where you've got this flybridge. What do you think of the flybridge?
I think the flybridge obviously looks really cool, and I think it'd be great for, you know, short periods of time, but I just don't think cruisers really want to be out in the elements like that much if you're living on a boat year round.
It's kind of like charter boat meets cruising boat. Charter boats have those fly bridges. I mean, they're fun to hang out up there, not really to sail, you know, across oceans from up there. And so you have to run up top to do any emergency line handling in an, you know, if something goes wrong out at night, that would be a little bit concerning. And those stairs don't look like the safest blue water things on the planet. But in terms of a kind of a cool, different design, if the traditional cockpit salon concept with a helm, you know, in the corner doesn't work for you, this is something different to try, kind of like the Windelo. It certainly looks sleek and kind of cool and different. And then this boat, it's unique in that, so first of all, the flybridge is unique, and that's where all the steering is. It's also unique in the interior is kind of almost like again, like an apartment style boat. So you've got a big, long galley with an island, which is nice. Forward seating with a forward-facing nav table. This is where the cabin is down below, so you kind of lose a little bit of space, but you could put baskets or something for storage up there. And then you get the seating area, but that's it. There isn't really seating area in the boats that they've built so far. They are coming out with a new concept where there's a drawing in this video where they're going to have a seat out in the back.
Right, because right now they don't really have.
Yeah, let me skip to that. All right, so there you see the helm in the back. So now they've lengthened it a little bit, and behind the stairs they've added a small table with 2 chairs and then a bench seat. And so this isn't kind of your lounge, hang out and enjoy the surroundings spot when it's raining. You know, you're going to be inside the boat. But they've added that, I think, that was probably the one flaw in the design previously, was not having you want to sit and eat outside with your family. That's what you want to do. But look at those stairs. Would you want to run up those stairs in an emergency to deal with something, line that's chafing or broken? Or And then the other cool thing is they.
So is it these sides are always open? This flips up, but
the sides are open. Well, there's line. You obviously have lifelines that clip on, and then there's lifelines behind there that keep you from just falling overboard. But it's not a protected U-shape cockpit.
It's much more open.
But this forward area is pretty nice. So you've got a forward seating area now too, with a door that opens up and lets all that air through. And so this would be where you would lounge and hang out and check out your surroundings and be in one with the environment, which is kind of cool. So I think that's a cool boat. It'd be interesting to see how. I don't think would be the choice of a true round-the-world cruiser, but if you're hanging out in the Bahamas and just going from Florida to the Bahamas or something, or cruising in the Med, kind of a cool boat. Anything?
Sure.
Same issue though. It is built in Southeast Asia, so you've got to get that boat to the Med somehow. Okay, the next boat is the ITAeta 1499. This is 100%. I call it the electric Outremer. It's basically an Outremer, but electric. So there's no diesel engines at all. I don't think there's even a generator on this boat. That'd be the flaw immediately with it for me. Is I think 100% electric is a great aspirational goal, but I think on a couple of cloudy days, you're gonna really wish you had something to do it. So it might come with a generator, and so then it would be a lot like the Windelo in that regard. This boat though it says it's extremely light, lighter than the Outremer, which it could be. In fact, it looks a lot like an Outremer. If you look at that picture there. Right. I mean, it's basically our boat. Dagger boards, the longeron, crossbeam look very identical. The coach roof, it's kind of like a boxier, more square. Even the windows inside look a lot like an Outremer. Mm-hmm. 2 helms, outside exposed helms. So those are more like a Katana. I'm not sure I love that. You don't even really have seats on this boat to sit and steer. So you're really going to be, this is again a sailor's boat. We're going to be out trimming and exposed. And then when you want to come inside, you'll sit at the forward-facing nav table. This picture is almost exactly our boat. You've got the fridge and freezer over there. You've got the U-shaped, seating area, and then a nav table here on the starboard side, and then the galley. Right. U-shaped galley on this boat, which is.
It is an efficient layout. I feel like.
Yeah, very modern and clean. The ventilation isn't very good. Look at those tiny windows compared to even what we have on this boat. Right. I'd love to see much bigger windows. In fact, if those windows are flat, there's just no reason why they're not opening up entirely.
Yeah, that would be a good add.
Yeah. And then inside, pretty narrow hulls again for performance. This is a performance boat. not a lot of data on this boat yet. You're just starting making them, so it'll be interesting to see kind of like what is the true performance, what is the true weight, how is it to really cruise on it, and have some YouTuber out there do a review on it and see what it's like. Okay. Our next boat is 9.5. I snuck one in there. I kind of.
Great.
We talked about the OC50. This is the exact same boat, but in carbon fiber. So the HH50, you kind of can't talk about one without the other. The HH50 skews to the most expensive of this sort of, range of boats that are in that sweet spot. Here you see both these two boats highlighted. The OC50 is a little bit heavier because it's fiberglass. The HH is 100% carbon fiber. So it's a little bit heavier than the Outremer. And that might just be being realistic. I find that hard to believe that the Outremer is lighter than an all carbon boat. So I think there's some truth factor here. In fact, HH, part of their contract is this is the weight we're going to deliver to you. Every option you pick, they know the weight of it, and they calculate the weight of the boat.
Well, I mean, that's part of the weight thing. Like, are they doing it, is it the lightest it could be, or is it with all the stuff? I mean, that's...
Well, again, HH is about, they're not building the lightest, fastest boat possible. They're building a cruising boat, but they're building it out of carbon fiber. So in this version, it's super strong and rigid. It's so strong, and they've designed it to be able to hold a 5-ton payload. So you put 5 tons of water and diesel and your stuff on board, and you could still fly a hull, and you're not going to break the mast because the boat's been designed to that strength level.
Crazy.
So that's their heavy displacement would be unfair to use on the HH50 because it's designed to have a high payload.
Right.
But anyway, we won't spend a lot of time on this. We've kind of already talked about the HH boats, but I mean, this was the gunboat yard. They were building gunboats, and when gunboat started having financial troubles, they started making these boats, and it's kind of always been one of my dream boats. Okay, talking about gunboat, this is the poor man's gunboat, the Kinetic KC54. So I call it that because, again, this is another boat that has lineage to gunboat. This is the yard that the gunboat used in South Africa before they had financial troubles. Now we know why they might have had financial troubles. They kind of moved their yards around too much. But they knew how to build these gunboats, and so they, this yard takes that heritage of the gunboat, and then they're almost identical design to an older gunboat. So they've got a center cockpit, forward cockpit with this helm right behind it inside, 2 aft helms, and some other kind of cool concepts. This boat, though, skews way out of the price range. This is way on the side, way more expensive, and way larger, 54 feet compared to mostly 50 footers.
Right.
This boat should be bigger. It should be more of a wow. It really shouldn't be in this top 10 at all. In fact, if we look back at it, it should be competing with gunboat. Gunboat's a lot more expensive, a little bit heavier with a lot more sail area. So the gunboat, the new one that they're making in France, is going to blow the socks performance-wise off the Kinetic. So the Kinetic, I think, is finding its spot. It's like a gunboat, but kind of more in the cruising sector. I'm sure you could race it, but it's a bit more of a cruiser racer than just a pure racer. Okay. And really, the gunboat 68. Now you're in like super yacht size. You're going to need a crew of 3.
Right. You can't compare.
70-foot carbon boat to race around them. So I like the look of the Kinetic 54, KC54. It's got some cool design features to it. I'm going to skip ahead to. So here's the forward cockpit. The cockpit, this gets all the line handling again out of the back. The mast, though, is above the coach roof, so you don't really have great visibility kind of aft. I guess you would. It'd be interesting to sail it and see what it's like to be up front trimming, where really you just have the Genoa or the jib and the head sails in front of you. This is the back. The back of the boat is really fascinating. You got dual twin helms, exposed outside if you wanted to dock or steer and not be on the inside, which is nice. But then this transom's cool. So the transom folds up when you're underway, and then the davits actually flip down to hoist your dinghy up. You can't have solar on it because they flip open. Mm-hmm. So you have this walkway. You can walk across the whole length from transom to transom, which is kind of cool. And you even have these steps down from the cockpit area. And again, that just opens up this, at one with where you are, you're out there in the sea. You can step off right off the boat like that and not have to go down to the transoms to do so. Right. And then when that folds up, you have these two seats there, to sit on, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, the outside, I think the back is beautiful, and it's so nice not having the lines and stuff there. I think it would just be a matter of how hard it is to sail like that. I don't know.
Yeah, the Traveler's up on the coach roof, so there's really no line handling at all done back here. It's all done up front. And so that's how this boat would be sailed. Beautiful, though, inside. Again, I like this layout where you've got kind of the seating back aft, so you're looking to the outer edges. You don't need to worry about rain or sun kind of coming into where you're going to be hanging out. One critique would be that the doors don't open as wide as the HHs do, or some of the other boats, or the, especially the McConaughey's and the Windelos. Your fly. But you come inside, and then the salon area and interior is beautiful. So if we get a bigger boat, you've got an island.
And this all opens up.
That opens up.
Yeah, it would have a lot of airflow.
Yeah,
nice.
the front doors and windows make a lot of airflow through the boat. And so really, really high-end, really nice boat. Again, fully customizable. Pick what colors and wood you want on the second of the boat.
It's just, it is a lot more expensive.
Well, that's the cons. The cons in this one are, it's not even in the same league. We shouldn't even be talking about it, but it's just kind of another cool new catamaran with some new design trends and concepts in it. I thought it was worth talking about. Okay, so that's a wrap. That's it. That was a lot longer than we thought it would be, but thanks for talking through the boats with me. I think what we'd like to do, I want to tell people what is our favorite boat, but I think we gotta save it for another video. Let's wrap it there. Let's have a conversation below though. Like, what do you guys think? What boat would you pick and why?
Yeah, I'd love to hear what people think about these boats that we've gone through and why they would pick a certain one over another one. That'd be a really fun conversation.
It would. And then in a couple of days, we'll come back with kind of our final thoughts, which we'll film right now, but we'll keep that for the next episode. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hope that video helped people. I'm going to share this data down below as well, so you'll have a Google Doc that you can download this Excel sheet and play around with it any way you want as well. And then if we've got any of the data wrong or there's corrections to that, please let us know as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
See you soon.